The light hit the cathedral window. The stained glass threw deep sapphire and ruby colors across the altar. It was exactly like the Pinterest board, exactly like the $80,000 budget promised. My dress was silk, heavy and perfect. My mother was openly weeping in the front row. Ethan stood opposite me. His jaw was set, looking every bit the successful investment banker. He was my handsome, confident groom. He was a liar, a fraud, a bigamist. The officiant smiled at us. He cleared his throat for the final question. This was the moment. The ring bearer, a nervous 6-year-old, dropped the velvet pillow. The small clatter echoed in the silence. Ethan didn't even flinch. He just focused on the officiant. Do you, Ethan, take this woman, to be your lawfully wedded wife? The words hung in the air. Ethan opened his mouth. I saw the practiced, sincere smile begin. He was about to lie to God and to 200 people. He was about to lie to me one last time. But he never got the chance. I subtly pressed the tiny remote hidden under the lilies of my bouquet. The massive speakers flanking the altar didn't play Pachelbel's canon. They played a slightly muffled recording. It was Ethan's voice. The audio was clear, crisp, and horrifyingly intimate. And with this ring, I, Ethan, pledge my life to you, Chelsea. I promise to honor and cherish you until death separates us. I know this is sudden, but it's real. A collective gasp swept through the church. My mother's high-pitched wail cut through the silence. Ethan's face went from practiced sincerity to pure, blinding terror. His eyes darted around the room, searching for the source. They finally landed on me. My expression was serene. I reached into the bodice of my silk dress. I pulled out a perfectly folded, certified document. It was a state of Nevada marriage certificate. I let it flutter down, landing right on the officiant's opened Bible. He already did, I said. My voice didn't shake. It was a cold, clear bell. 3 months ago, to his colleague, Chelsea. He is already married. This was not my wedding day. This was my public execution. His, not mine. But let me back up. The whole romance felt like something out of a Hallmark movie. Ethan and I met at a mutual friend's housewarming party. He worked in finance. I was an architect. We were both ambitious, driven, and seemingly committed to a future. He looked great on paper. He was tall, clean-cut, and he spoke about my designs like he actually understood them. My Vietnamese family loved him. That was the crucial part. They adored him. He brought flowers for my Bon White grandmother, and he always asked my father for investment advice. He was the perfect, respectable, non-artist white man. My family had been pressuring me. They wanted grandchildren. They wanted stability. Ethan was stability. He was my anchor. Our engagement was huge. He proposed on a rented sailboat in the Pacific. I got the 3-carat solitaire I wanted. The planning started immediately. We booked the cathedral. We booked the $150 per plate dinner. I threw myself into the process. I loved planning. I saw the wedding as a beautiful structure, a design I was perfecting. I didn't see it as a relationship. I should have. The cracks started appearing subtly. They were tiny, structural flaws I ignored. Ethan's job became frantic. He was always on his phone. He always had a crisis in the Hong Kong market or a deal in Miami. He started taking these sudden 3-day trips. He never told me until the night before. I'd wake up to a note on the counter. Urgent business. Back Friday. Love you. I was too busy planning to notice the distance. He bought me expensive gifts, a diamond bracelet, a new laptop. I took the gifts as proof of his commitment. I was such an idiot. He was buying my silence, my blind eye. I was too focused on the floral arrangements to see the rotting foundation of my life. And then there was Chelsea, the coworker. She worked on Ethan's team. She was nice enough. Too nice, maybe. She was always present at work dinners. Ethan always mentioned her. He'd talk about her constantly, but it was always professional. They were just colleagues. One night, Chelsea was at our place. We were having wine. She kept staring at me with this strange, knowing look. It wasn't hostile. It was almost pity. I asked her about a client presentation. She paused. "Oh, Ethan handled that alone," she said. She glanced at Ethan. He shot her a look, a fast, gleeful look that Chelsea immediately understood. She changed the subject. My gut tightened. Why did he need to lie about who was on his team? Why did he have to exaggerate his own workload? I dismissed it. Stress, wedding planning fatigue. I took another sip of wine and told myself I was crazy. My brain was trying to protect me. My heart just wanted the wedding, the beautiful structure. The sudden trips became more frequent. Ethan started changing his story details. He would say he stayed at the Ritz in Chicago, but then the Uber receipt on his desk would show a drop-off at a budget motel near the airport. He never let me look at his business phone. It was always locked. He'd take calls in the next room, whispering into the receiver. I asked him about it once. "It's proprietary information, Mai. You wouldn't understand the compliance issues." He said it with a patronizing little smile. The smile made my hands clench. 2 months before the wedding, I found the first real clue. It wasn't on his phone. It was stuck in his passport, which he carelessly left on the kitchen counter. It was a receipt for a service. Clergy services and notarization fee. The amount was specific, $350. The date was 3 months ago. The location was a small chapel in Reno, Nevada. I stared at the paper. Why would an investment banker need a specific clergy service in Reno? He didn't have family there. None of his clients were there. I waited until he got home. I was calm. Too calm. I made his favorite dinner, chicken pho. I served it to him, and then I pushed the receipt across the granite countertop. His face drained instantly. The color went out of him like someone had pulled a plug. He stammered. "Mai, what is this? Where did you get this? It was in your passport, Ethan. What is clergy services in Reno?" He launched into a complex, breathless lie. He said a major client, a huge one, was having a private, highly secretive ceremony. A non-disclosure agreement was involved. The client was paranoid about the press. They needed me there as a witness, he insisted, for tax purposes. It was an estate thing. I had to pay the fee myself and expense it later. It was plausible. It was detailed. It was exactly the kind of elaborate garbage a banker would spin. I almost believed him. He leaned over, took my hand, and kissed my knuckles. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I know it looks weird. But trust me, it was for the deal." I didn't argue. I just nodded slowly, but the knot in my stomach was now a cold, solid stone. I took a picture of the receipt before I gave it back. Then I called my best friend, Sarah. Sarah works in legal research for a major firm. She loves digging. She loves proving people wrong. "Something is wrong, Sarah," I whispered into the phone, standing in the pantry so he couldn't hear me. "I need you to look up this address. Reno, 3 months ago. Clergy fees. Look for anything. Marriage licenses. Business formations. Anything that links Ethan to that chapel." Sarah didn't ask questions. She just said, "Send me the address. I'll get back to you by the end of the week. Get some rest, Mai." I hung up. I went back to the kitchen. Ethan was scrolling through his phone, a forced, casual expression on his face. I ate my pho. It tasted like ash. I knew he was lying. I just didn't know what the lie was hiding. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was at the office, sketching out details for a new high-rise lobby. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Her voice was flat, devoid of her usual sarcasm. "Mai, I have it. I need you to sit down." I walked to the fire escape stairwell. The concrete was cold under my hand. "Just tell me," I said. My heart was already pounding against my ribs. I knew it was bad. I just needed the diagnosis. He lied about the client. "He lied about the tax purposes," Sarah said. "It was a marriage, a simple civil ceremony. I pulled the public record. They didn't even try to seal it." My vision tunneled. The beige concrete walls swam around me. Who? The question felt physically heavy, dragging itself out of my chest. It's him, Ethan, your fiancé. And his name is listed as the groom. The bride is Chelsea Hayes. Your coworker. The colleague. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just leaned my head against the cold wall. I laughed. A small, dry, desperate sound that echoed strangely in the stairwell. It was the fishing trip weekend. The same 3 days he said he was on a charter boat off the coast of Maine. No, he was in Reno, getting married to Chelsea, my colleague. The deception wasn't just about cheating. It was about deep, calculated fraud. He wasn't just having an affair. He had married her. The realization hit me like a physical blow. The nausea was immediate and intense. My hands started shaking so violently I couldn't hold the phone properly. Every nice dinner, every romantic gesture, every compliment on my architecture, it was all a performance. A carefully staged play to keep me calm and distracted. I called out of work, claiming a sudden migraine. I drove home in a daze. I walked into our meticulously decorated apartment. I looked at the wedding favors stacked in the spare room. The embossed invitations, the $1,200 veil hanging on the closet door. It wasn't just that he betrayed me. He had wasted an entire year of my life. He had dragged my loving, traditional family into this massive, sick joke. The shame he was about to put on my parents was unbearable. I sat on the edge of the bed and made my decision. I would not quietly cancel the wedding. I would not send a passive-aggressive email. I would not let him slide away with a gentle explanation. He wanted a public spectacle for his own game. He wanted a massive, expensive stage. Fine, he would get it, but I would be the director of the final act. I would use the full weight of the $80,000 production to crush him. The wedding was 3 weeks away. Plenty of time to build the trop. The next 3 weeks were the best acting performance of my life. I was the perfect bride. I was cheerful. I was organized. I smiled constantly. Ethan relaxed. He thought the stress was getting to me. He thought he was home free. I went to the final dress fitting. I finalized the seating chart. I discussed the signature cocktails with the caterer. I was meticulous. I was planning a hit. My first call was to Sarah. She immediately sent me the certified copy of the Nevada marriage license. I studied it. The signatures were valid. The date was correct. I paid a premium to get a second, fully notarized copy shipped overnight. This was my evidence. The hard, cold truth on embossed paper. My second call was to my cousin Din. Din is a sound engineer. He specializes in live event production. He has the best equipment and the highest standards for audio quality. I explained the situation to him in the starkest terms. I need you to splice an audio track into the main wedding playlist. I need it to play through the main speakers at the altar. It needs to happen exactly when I press this remote. I gave him the file of Ethan's vows from the Reno marriage, which Sarah had managed to retrieve from an open-source court file. Din was horrified but committed. It's a big sound system, Mai. It'll shake the stained glass. It'll be perfect. My third and most critical call was to a professional notary public, a retired woman named Mrs. Henderson. I hired her for a private consultation that morning and then asked her a critical question. If I have a valid marriage certificate showing a groom is already married and he attempts to perform a second marriage ceremony, what is the legal liability for the officiant and what is the crime being committed? She explained it clearly. Bigamy, fraud, and the officiant must stop immediately. I then hired Mrs. Henderson. I gave her a $5,000 retainer. Her job was simple: attend the wedding, disguised as a friend of the family, sit in the third row, carry her official notary stamp, and a copy of the Nevada certificate. When the vows started, she was to move to the front. She wasn't just an emotional witness. She was a legal enforcement tool. The final piece of the plan was the officiant. He was a retired judge, a friend of Ethan's father. I knew he was highly ethical. I knew he respected the law more than anyone. I needed him to be the one to physically stop the ceremony. The shame would be greater. The legal implications would be clearer. Everything was in place. The perfect white dress, the perfect cathedral, the perfect lie, and the perfect lethal sound system. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were clear. The wedding was going to happen, just not the one Ethan planned. The first 5 minutes of the ceremony were a blur of tradition. The processional, the hymns, the reading. I was a beautiful, smiling robot. Ethan was sweating slightly under the lights, but he maintained the composure of a man who thought he was untouchable. He kept looking out at the crowd, beaming at his colleagues. I knew Chelsea was out there somewhere. Sarah had confirmed she flew in late last night. She was probably sitting in the back, waiting for this sham to be over so she could finalize whatever business deal was attached to their fraudulent marriage. The judge reached the critical part. The giving of the rings. Ethan fumbled with his pocket. I pressed the remote. The recorded audio was deafening. The sound waves hit the cathedral ceiling, bouncing off the old stone and wood. It was impossible to ignore. Every single one of the 200 guests heard Ethan's voice declaring his love and commitment to Chelsea. People stood up. Whispering exploded into loud, shocked murmurs. Ethan's scream was involuntary. It was a guttural sound of pure animal panic. He looked at me, a sudden, panicked realization dawning in his eyes. She knows. He started lunging toward the speakers, trying to find the source, trying to stop the betrayal. That's when Mrs. Henderson, the notary, stepped into the aisle. She wasn't running. She walked with a calm, professional stride. She handed the original marriage certificate to the officiant. The judge took one look at the embossed seal and the names. His face went white with shock and outrage. He slammed his hand down on the podium. The sound of the gavel was sharp and final. "This ceremony is over," he announced, his voice booming with judicial authority. "Ethan, I cannot proceed. You are already legally married. This is an act of fraud." In the back, I saw the commotion. A sleek blonde woman was trying to push past a pillar. It was Chelsea. She was trying to escape. Sarah, my best friend, was waiting. She didn't stop Chelsea. She just took a clear, high-resolution photo of her face, a terrified Chelsea caught red-handed. Ethan wasn't screaming about me. He was screaming at the judge. "You can't do this. The contract, the deal is void if this isn't finished. You're ruining everything." He didn't care about the 2 women he betrayed. He only cared about the money. The shame finally cracked his facade. Suddenly, 2 men in dark suits approached Ethan. They weren't police yet, but they had badges. Mrs. Henderson had not only called the judge, but she had contacted a specialized fraud unit. They immediately took Ethan aside. I watched him try to argue, to plead, to lie one last time. It didn't work. The cathedral was silent now, except for the sobs of my mother and the cold clicking sound of a handcuff. My revenge was complete. The aftermath was a hurricane of questions, shame, and sudden, unexpected calm. The guests were stunned. My father was initially furious, not at me, but at the potential public dishonor. My mother was heartbroken. But as soon as I showed them the certified certificate, their anger shifted entirely to Ethan. My father stood next to me. He issued a statement to the few reporters who showed up. "My daughter has shown more integrity today than her former fiancé has shown in his entire life." Their support was my lifeline. The fallout for Ethan was catastrophic. The investment firm he worked for had a zero-tolerance policy for financial fraud and bigamy. He wasn't just fired, he was publicly disgraced. The entire deal that required his marriage to Chelsea was tied to a shady international tax dodge. The local authorities, thanks to Mrs. Henderson and the public spectacle, were now looking closely at all his transactions. Since Chelsea was a foreign national needing status, their sham marriage was immediately flagged for immigration fraud. The last I heard, Ethan was facing deportation hearings in addition to civil suits from his own family for the ruined wedding costs. He lost everything, his job, his house, and his reputation. I refunded every single guest. I used the money I saved from not having a reception to pay off the caterers and the florist, keeping only the beautiful, expensive silk dress. I also kept the non-refundable 2-week honeymoon trip to the Amalfi Coast. I went alone. It was the most beautiful trip of my life. I spent 2 weeks hiking, sketching, and drinking cheap Italian wine. I didn't cry once. I felt light, free. The publicity, though painful, turned into a strange form of success. The story of the architect bride who exposed her bigamist fiancé went viral on every platform. People loved the cold, clear revenge. My small architecture firm, My Design Group, saw an influx of clients who loved my uncompromising vision and attention to structural integrity. They loved that I didn't just build buildings, I built unbreakable plans. I got rid of all of Ethan's gifts. The diamond bracelet was pawned for my new solo life fund. I changed the locks and redecorated the apartment. The space felt clean. I learned the most painful lesson of my life: never prioritize stability over truth. The perfect life he promised was just another piece of architecture, and I, the architect, had the skills to tear it down when the foundation proved rotten. I am not a victim. I am a planner, and I am finally, truly married to my own independence.